Hello, hello. Welcome, defenders, to our Resistance Recess Prep session. My name is Kelley Robinson. I'm the National Organizing Director with Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Y'all, we have an action-packed agenda for you this evening/afternoon, depending on where you are, because we're excited to get you ready for what is going to be one of the most pivotal recesses that we've had in this campaign. Give us just 2 minutes. We're going to give folks just another couple minutes to hop on, and we'll start in just a few. So hang tight. You are in the right place, and we'll get started in just a sec. For those that are just joining, again, thank you so much for joining our Resistance Recess call. Defenders, y'all are where it's at, and y'all are going to be the ones to stand with Planned Parenthood and defend reproductive rights moving forward. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. While I have your attention, I just want you to know that this is going to be a time for you to ask questions to me and Jacqueline, who are your Planned Parenthood experts on the call. If you do have questions, feel free to start dropping them in that Q&A section in your in the Blue Jeans app, and we'll get started in 1 minute. All right, my friends, it is time for us to get started. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your late afternoon and early evenings to join us on this Defender Resistance Recess Prep session. My name is Kelley Robinson. I'm the National Organizing Director at Planned Parenthood Action Fund. I've also got my colleague here, Jacqueline Ayers, the Director of Legislative Affairs, on the line to really get us ready for this next phase of the fight. We know that May recess is coming up and that senators are going to be back home ready to hear from you, their constituents. We also know that this moment is happening at a pivotal time in the fight. We've done some incredible work to defend Planned Parenthood and access to health care for millions and millions of Americans. In the next month, we're going to have the chance to really win this fight for sure through having a strong May recess. So we're so excited to talk with you about this incredible opportunity to take action in a way that's going to make a difference in this fight and really in our world when it comes to healthcare access. So on today's call, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to give you an update on our current political situation, what's going on down on the Hill, and what you need to know. Then we'll spend some time talking about Memorial Day recess and action plans, what we need you to do to ensure that we win this fight. We'll talk through tips and tricks to help you to create your action plan and ultimately round out with some resources that you can use moving forward. Throughout this call, we'll be taking your questions. So as you're listening and questions are coming up, don't feel afraid to drop those into the Q&A box on your Blue Jeans app. We'll be reviewing that regularly and lift up questions for the full group. Just so you know, we'll have a chance to answer a good set of questions after we do the update on the current political situation, and another chance to come back to your questions at the end of this session. And although you've got a lot of chances to ask questions here, you can always email defenders@ppfa.org as a space for us to answer your questions in real time as they're coming up, because we know that we want you to have all the information that you need to make sure we win this fight. Your presenters on the call. As I said, my name is Kelley Robinson. I'm the National Organizing Director at Planned Parenthood Action Fund. And we also have my esteemed colleague, Jacqueline Ayers. We call her the Jacqueline Ayers. Hey, Jacqueline, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Glad to join you. Jacqueline Ayers, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs at Planned Parenthood. Thank you so much for talking with us tonight.
All right. So without further ado, why don't we jump into our recess prep session? Jacqueline, can you give us an update on what exactly is going down on the Hill that we need to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Kelly, and thanks again to all of you. We want to hear about how we can win, right? And we know that we need you now more than ever. The defenders are critical to defending back against attacks on individuals' reproductive health and rights. And we're going to keep seeing these attacks at all levels in the states and particularly in Congress. But we know that these fights are stoppable, and we need your help to win. So, first, I just want to share what's happening in Washington, D.C., and why we need more actions out there in the states helping to push back against all that's going on. I'm sure you probably saw today that the White House released a proposed framework or a budget that would be devastating for women and families, slashing critical programs and rolling back all the progress that we've made in this country. And rather than really invest in impactful strategies to help people lead healthy and successful lives, they're trying to make it more difficult for struggling families. But one thing I want you to know is no matter what you read today in your Facebook feed about that budget, the real fight is about healthcare. That's the bill that will devastate access to reproductive health care and cut off people's access to Planned Parenthood. And as much as all the news out there today about this White House makes us want to pull our hair out, we know that these decisions really rely on what happens in Congress. They are the decision makers that we want to influence. So after the House passed a bill called the American Health Care Act that would eliminate health care access for millions, we know that this awful bill would defund Planned Parenthood health centers, and now they're going to try to ram it through the Senate. The process in the Senate will only require 51 votes. So that's less than the normal majority of 60 votes. They only need 51. And can we go to the next slide so we can show people that the Senate right now is working really hard to do this in a closed door process. They're actually not even having open hearings. They're not listening to constituents. They put together a small group of 13 white men to talk about your healthcare access. And so we know that after the House passed this bill, it could move straight through the Senate, and they want to try to move it very quickly. Can you advance to the next slide? That's why we want to send a very clear message. The Senate must not pass a bill that would defund Planned Parenthood health centers and take away basic health care services at Planned Parenthood, like cancer screenings, STD testing and treatment, and birth control. Blocking people access to their care could result in an increased rate of STD, cancer, unintended pregnancies, and horrible health outcomes that are avoidable. We know that the House bill would really harm people of color, people who earn low incomes, people living in rural areas are going to be most affected. So that's why we have to make sure that any bill that would roll back access to Planned Parenthood, that would take away pre existing condition coverage, including maternity care or coverage for people who have been survivors of sexual assault, roll back access to Medicaid expansion, and make it more expensive for young people to get health care and access to reproductive care, we must tell them no. So that's why you don't really have much time. We need you now. This is the wrong bill. And we know that the Senate could vote really at any time. They really want to start moving this legislation in the months of June or July. And they want to try and pass a bill definitely by August when they're back home for a 1 month recess. So we have to have a sustained, loud opposition, and it really has to start now. Tomorrow, we know that you're going to hear more information in the news about a new government study that is coming out. It's going to tell us more about how bad this bill is, how many millions of people would lose health care coverage, and how the bill targets Planned Parenthood health centers. So we can't let them get away with explaining this bill any other way. We have to make sure that they know we understand this bill is about taking away healthcare services and that they're going to hear from their constituents starting this week through the recess and until we stop this thing. So next week, when senators are back home in their states, we're going to need you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly to talk about what you can do. I also want to be available to answer your questions about the process and everything going on here in Washington.
Great. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And as she said, we want to be able to answer some of your questions right now, in fact. So as you have questions, please do drop them in that Q&A box, and our other colleague, Vero Castro, is going to help us to bring up the questions that are getting the most energy and enthusiasm to the full group to answer. But I just got to underscore what Jacqueline said. This bill that passed the House is the worst piece of legislation for women's health in a generation. This isn't just bad, this is really, really bad. We have to do something to stop it because literally our lives are at stake in this fight. So with that, I want to take a second for us to answer just a few questions that you may have about this current political moment. Vero, do we have any questions that have come up from the group?
Yes, we have actually. Let me let me go up here. So we had a question from Evelina asking, when is the Senate voting for healthcare? I'm gonna go ahead and let me go ahead and ask one more, and then you can respond to both. Or actually, yes, go ahead, Jacqueline. Why don't you respond to that one?
Great. Thanks so much, Vera, and thanks, Evelina, for your question. We don't know an exact date that the Senate will vote. What the Senate leadership has publicly said is that when they have 51 votes, they're going to take a vote. They'll move this bill to the floor probably very quickly, without a lot of heads up, without any hearings, without any transparency. Because we know that they're having backroom talks and conversations without women at the table, without your voices at the table. That's why we have to start now in reaching out to them and making sure that they hear this can't happen. While all of this is subject to change, the timeline that we have heard from Republican leadership in the Senate is that they want to pass this bill by August recess. June and July are going to be our crucial months, and that's why I know we're going to hear a little bit later about why we want to get started next week during the Memorial Day recess.
Great. I'm going to package these next three questions together since they have some similar questions to them. So my senators and Debbie Schwartz would like to know, my senators and representatives support reproductive rights. My senators both have a 100% rating with Planned Parenthood. I have confidence in them. It's many others, including others in my state of Michigan, who are the challenge. How do you approach officials outside your home district? That had 11 likes. And then alternatively, Sonia is asking, for those of us with reps and senators who won't come back to our districts, what can we do to make a difference?
Thank you so much for your questions. We can all make a difference, even for members who are supportive, members who are not hearing from us, or we don't see them in their states and districts. So let me take that first question. For people who have members of Congress that are supportive, thank you very much. We're glad that we have supportive members who are going to stand up against defunding Planned Parenthood. They need to hear from you too. It's important that you pick up the phone, make a phone call, say thank you for standing with Planned Parenthood. We need to make sure that as negotiations happen, as these backroom deals are cut, that Planned Parenthood is not on the menu. We want to really make it clear that we need them to stand strong and keep speaking out. I would also say, Debbie, you're from Michigan. We know that the Senate is the next stop, but not the last stop for this healthcare bill. You have many members who are in the House of Representatives who are going to potentially vote on this bill again. The process will be that after it goes and passes the Senate, if it passes the Senate, that we will see it come back over to the House. And there are a couple of different procedural ways that could happen. So that means that members who voted no, we need them in the House. We need them to keep voting no. So please pick up the phone and call those senators from your delegation that voted no and tell them that's how they must keep their vote. If you have a member from Michigan, and I know you do, that have voted yes, we want to make sure that they hear from your constituents like you, Debbie, who can tell them they're really standing in the way of progress, and constituents want to make sure that they're not taking away health care. For those of you who maybe are not in states and districts where your members are holding town halls, they're not listening, they're not doing patient roundtables, we need you to pick up the phone. And we're going to hear later from Kelley about some additional tactics that you can do in state to call out those members who are not listening to their constituents, in addition to making phone calls.
Yeah. Hey, Jacqueline, the only thing that I would add is that this is with all of the fanfare that happened around the House, this particular political situation that we're having in the Senate hasn't quite gotten the same level of traction. So, one of the things that we can do as people that are in the know, as folks that are defenders in your community, is to talk to our friends, our neighbors, our people that live in those districts where they may have some challenging representatives, to let them know what's going on and to let them know that Planned Parenthood is again on the chopping block, and we need to stand up now and protect our rights. During the House phase of this fight, we had folks that you'd never would have that had never stood up before and told their story of going to Planned Parenthood, tell their story. People that had never gone to a town hall go and show up to a town hall for the first time. We need all those folks to come back out because we are on the verge of something good. We are on the verge of being able to shut this down. So we do need you to remember to remind all of your friends, all of your family members, people that live in those challenging districts, that the fight is still on and that we need their voices. And for those of you that are in places where your senator may not be coming home, as Jacqueline said, we're going to have some other tips and tricks coming up. But just a little teaser here, think about writing letters to the editor. Think about hosting events anyway and tagging your representative on Twitter and on Facebook and on the internet. All of those things help us to still get our message through. We'll dig into that a little bit more, but don't worry, there is a role for literally everyone. Hey, Vero, I think we have time for 2 more questions, and we'll take some more at the end of our call.
That sounds great. Then I think these are pretty good. There was a question about, is there a limit to the postcard emails an individual can send to a rep, and does each communication count? Since you were touching on that a little bit, Kelley. And then the only other one I would say is, why is it only 51 votes?
That's great. Jacqueline, do you want to take the 51 vote question since that's an exciting one?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for asking and for being such a savvy defender. You clearly know that typically when the Senate does its business, it has to require a 2/3 majority, 60 votes for most legislation. We think because they know taking away health care is not politically popular, that you are going to keep speaking out and speaking up. They are using a procedural tool called budget reconciliation. This is a tool that can be used to impact budgetary issues, and they only need a simple majority, so 51 votes in the Senate, to move a reconciliation bill through. We know exactly what this is about, right? This is them really taking a procedural workaround to try to ram through a really unpopular bill that would take away health care and defund Planned Parenthood. So we want to call them out on it. We want to make sure that they know people back home in their states are really watching. They should be having hearings. They should be listening to you. They should be making sure that this whole train slows down before we take away health care for millions of people and block access to Planned Parenthood. So just because that they're not following the traditional process of moving legislation, that doesn't mean that we cannot weigh in. And as Kelley said, really try to put the sand in the gears and stop them from moving ahead. And we're going to talk about how we can do that.
All right. And to that other question, I recommend make a call a day every day. The more that we can contact them as a constituent and let them know why we care about this issue, the better. We need to be telling our stories to these representatives and sending them postcards regularly. We want to build a relationship with these representatives so that they know you when they come back to town. The more that we as individuals can build strong relationships with our reps, the farther we're going to be able to go, not just in this fight to defend Planned Parenthood and healthcare access in the United States, but also for the next fight, whether that's about education access or better schools or safer communities in your neighborhood. All the relationships that we're building now are fodder and fuel to ensure that they stand with our constituencies and our communities in every fight that they have down in Washington, D.C. So with that, I do want to move us forward, and we will have one more time to take questions at the end of this webinar. So please continue to drop your questions in that Q&A box. Vero's got your back, and we'll take calls in questions again in just a few minutes. So let's talk about what we have to do. recess action plans. Now, although the situation in DC is a little bit precarious at the moment as the Senate is working on a new bill, and we're doing our best to keep them informed about what their constituents want, which is access to affordable, awesome healthcare across the country and access to Planned Parenthood. We're trying to keep them aware of all those good things, but we've got a lot of work to do as recess comes up. And I'll tell you, the work that we as defenders have done to date has been phenomenal. We've had over 5,000 meetups across the country where local defender teams have come together with people in their community to say, hey, we care about this. What is it that we're going to do? We've had thousands of events across the country just standing up and saying why we stand with Planned Parenthood. And because of that incredible work of getting together with our communities and organizing, of having public events to get the attention of our representatives, because of that good work, we have fought to be here right now. Y'all, you better remember, they wanted to defund Planned Parenthood and repeal the Affordable Care Act on day one of this Congress. And now look where we are, almost 5 months later, and we are still standing here. And that's because of the incredible work that you've done. One of the things I like to remember is that every day that we're able to push this fight forward, Planned Parenthood health centers can serve over 8,000 people across this country. So because of our work over the last hundreds of days, we've served nearly 1 million people because of your Planned Parenthood health centers have served nearly 1 million people because of your pushback work. That matters. That's people's lives that we're saving and protecting. That's what being a defender is all about. So the next phase of this work is talking about recess. Memorial Day is coming up, and yes, it's a great time to honor the folks in our community, and it's also a great time to have, a picnic and a barbecue, and it's even greater of a time for us to show out at town halls and let people know what we're standing for, right, as Americans, as community members. So this Memorial Day recess is going to be particularly important because, as Jacqueline said, this Senate hopes to be able to pass a piece of legislation, probably one of the worst pieces of legislation on healthcare in a generation, between June and July. So it's possible that when folks are home this Memorial Day recess, this could be the last time that we get a chance to talk to them before they come back to DC and make a vote. So it's more critical than ever that we stand up, that we show up, that we're loud, and we make our voices heard. So, as we said, your senators are going to be back in your states over Memorial Day recess. And I heard somebody say earlier that you may have one of these senators that's dodging you a little bit. Don't worry, we're going to have some tips and tricks for that too. But Memorial Day recess is going to be a phenomenal time to go to town halls, to find events that they're hosting, and to show up where they are to let them know that you stand with Planned Parenthood and that you demand access to affordable and good quality health care. So 3 things. There's a plan for every senator, no matter if your senator is with us, against us, or somewhere in between. We want everyone to focus on, if you've got a champion or someone who is pro-Planned Parenthood and pro-reproductive health access, to have thank you events. The more public the event, the better. Because what we need to do is support these champs in taking bold stances for the issues that matter for us. Now, some of you may be in a place where you've got a senator that's a little bit in between. Hey, y'all are incredibly special because the work that you do to contact those senators can really make the difference in this fight between winning and losing, between having health care for folks across the country, for over 24 million Americans, and not. So we've got some special treatment that we'll want to make sure that you contact your local Planned Parenthood to get more information about. And then some of us, we've got what we call the chumps. These are folks that may not actually have Memorial Day recess events in your areas, folks that have not taken positive stances on access to reproductive health care or access to health care in general. We're going to want to make sure that these people know that they are still accountable to you and to the people in your community. So let me talk more about the champs. For champs, we want to host thank you events. And the more public these events are, the better. If you can think about having this event in such a way where you can invite your local newspaper to be a part of it, or going to the event and taking pictures and putting it on the internet, having public thank yous for these folks to lift them up and let them know that we support them and that we're going to stand behind them in this fight and others is critically, critically important. A couple of things to think about with your thank you events. You should consider having thank you cards for your friends to fill out. I've seen some of our defenders do this over awesome brunch meetings where you have your mimosas, you have your French toast, and then you also fill out your thank you cards and mail them or send them over to your senator. I've seen folks have these as study parties. Even I saw a group that was a group of law school students that decided to have some thank you card parties right after they studied for one of their exams. But thank you cards, having thank you cards, filling them out and delivering them is a great action to take. The more, the better. We want to drop off as many cards as possible so that they know that you're standing behind them. Also, if your senator is holding a public event near you, great opportunity to go and thank them in person. We've got some tools and resources that we'll make available to you through the Defender's Toolkit, the Defender Action Guide after this call. So if you're looking for templates or tools to help with any of these actions, don't worry, that's on the way. Woo, let's talk about the chumps, the people that are not with us that we need to remind who they are representing in our communities. These are folks that we need to keep accountable. One of the actions that we're recommending is a Where is My Senator search party. So if you're in one of these areas where your senator's just not hosting meetings, a fun thing to do can be to get your friends together, put on some matching pink t-shirts or outfits, and host a search party where you go to your local grocery store and different local venues in your town to look for your senator. It's something cute and something fun, but if you take pictures of yourself doing this and post it on the internet, tagging your senator, that's a great way to get some traction on your issue. Make sure that people are aware that you're looking for your senator to hold them accountable and to send a message that is both saleable. Oh, I shouldn't try too hard on these triple word score words here. But it's a great way to kind of break through and let people know that you're looking for your senator and make the issue really one that's a public one that all of your friends and your family can be a part of as well. Some of these senators may be having public events. If they do, definitely go. If not, the Senate search party is a great tactic to use. Getting your friends together and doing this is another great idea. And again, in the Defender's Action Guide and Toolkit, we have more information about how to host these events, as well as some sample templates that you can download to support your work. Last thing, swing votes. Some of you are in areas where we actually don't know if your senator is going to stand with Planned Parenthood and stand with access to affordable health care, or if they're going to do something different. This is a great moment for you to find these folks and tell them your story about why this issue matters. Yes, we can talk about stats all day. We can talk about the 1 in 5 women that will visit a Planned Parenthood health center in her lifetime. That's all well and good. But the thing that moves our senators, the thing that moves our representatives is real stories from their constituents about why this matters. That's something that only you can do. For these swing folks, we want to make sure that we give them a special touch. So if you find yourself in one of these districts or you're unsure about where your representative stands, please reach out to your local Planned Parenthood to understand what they're currently planning and how you can be a part of developing that plan. To find out who your local Planned Parenthood staff person is, email defenders@ppfa.org. That's defenders@ppfa.org, and we'll get you connected. So before we go to questions, I'm going to do just a few other tips and tricks for things you want to consider as you're bringing your events together for this Memorial Day recess. Number 1, recruitment matters. The more people that we can get together, the better, especially at this critical moment where we need to let our representatives know that the vast majority of people, not only in America, but in their district, their state, care about this issue and it matters. So this is a great opportunity to reach out to all of your new friends and ask them to join you in this work. Ask each person that's generally come to be a part of your Defender meetings or part of different activities and events that you've had. Ask those folks to bring 3 more folks. Now is the time to increase our network of activists and leaders. Reaching out to other groups in your community is always a great idea and so important. Remember to do follow-ups before your event. You can text folks, send them an email, but make sure you're following up with them 24 hours ahead of your event and even an hour before to make sure they've got all the details and information they need. A couple of other things to think about when you're planning your events, especially those of you that are thinking you might need to do a Senate search party. 1, pick an awesome location, a place that's accessible to most people that you're engaging. So if folks don't have cars, you might think of something that's close to a bus stop, right? If folks do have cars, you might think of a place that has good parking. But just take those considerations in as you're developing your location for your event. 2, be visible. Our color for the resistance, for the Planned Parenthood part of the resistance, is pink. That's a great way to show up, make sure that you're heard, make sure that people understand that y'all are all together to take a visible action. Preparing your materials is important, and pictures. Document everything that you do and even post it online. Those kind of extra steps help it from going from an event with a few of your friends to being a community event that we can all be a part of. And as you post things online and you tag your representatives and at PPACT, PPACT, that's a great way for us at Planned Parenthood Action Fund to retweet you and make sure that what you're doing gets to be something that our full Defenders community can see and amplify. And of course, always keep it fun, but always keep it safe too. A couple of other things that you want to take note of at your event itself is that this is a great opportunity to embrace the energy and enthusiasm that folks are bringing to the table to, yes, do a public event, but also to use that to channel it into an action towards your legislator right now, as well as an opportunity to build the leadership of people in your community. So while you've got everyone together, make sure that you also invite them to call their legislator. Make sure that you also have a next event plan that you may be able to invite them to. And if they're folks that you haven't met before, sign them up to be a part of your community listserv or your phone tree so that they can actually be a part of helping you lead the next action or activity. But these pieces are going to help us from being, are going to help transform this movement into a sustainable one that is not only going to fight for and defend Planned Parenthood, but it's going to win every other fight that's coming to attack our communities. We're able to do this. We've got the people. We've got the numbers. We just need to make sure we're organizing ourselves in such a way that our voices are not just heard, but they are acted upon. The last thing I just want to lift up for this group of awesome defenders is some resources to help you in your work. Again, May Recess, such a critical moment and a great opportunity for us to stand together as a community. Some of the links that you can use to help develop your actions are here. I especially want to call out istandwithpp.org/act. Great spot to go to see what's currently planned in your communities and get access to links that can help you to dial your senator quickly and downloadable templates to support your work. Also, resistancenearme.org, you're going to see all the Planned Parenthood events and events for a myriad of organizations across our progressive movement listed on that website. Great spot to go to figure out what's happening near you to either plug in or develop your own event to add to that list. And of course, many of you may be on this call actually wondering if your senator is a champ, is a chump, or is one of our swing votes. You can find out more information about your particular representative by visiting the link on this slide under the Find Your Senator note. I'm not going to read it out because it's a little long, but please do take that down. It links to our congressional scorecard that can let you know how they voted on issues related to women's health. And of course, if you have any questions, we are here for you. The only way we're going to win this battle is together, is for us fighting together as one community. We're so excited to partner with you on this. And if you have questions, if you have needs, email defenders@ppfa.org, and we are here to support you. May Recess could not be more important for us as an organization, but really, when I think about this work and why it's important, I'm thinking about my family on the south side of Chicago and what it meant for me to have access to a Planned Parenthood growing up. It's important for each of us to defend access to these health services moving forward. Thank you all for being on the front lines of this work, for being there, guiding us forward, and helping to win this effort. And with that, I want to pause and give us a second opportunity to answer questions.
Great. Got a couple coming in, so if folks want to get their last ones in as well, now is the time. So we've got two regarding the Senate itself. One says from Paula, what aspects of the Senate bill will we put outside the budget, would put it outside the budget reconciliation process and make it require 60 votes? And then the other from David is, given that most politicians care only about their own reelection, why are Republicans so determined to pass this terrible act when they know it is so deeply unpopular?
Thanks. I'll jump in. This is Jacqueline. Thanks very much, David, for your question. What a great question to ask at a town hall or when we see our members out during Memorial Day recess. Why are they trying to push through a bill that is really unpopular, that would take away healthcare and devastate communities? We need them to answer that question. And that's why all of the tips and tricks that Kelley gave us are important to make sure that we know they know we're going to hold them accountable. They have to answer why they would be trying to push forward something that's so unpopular. And we also know that the other side is organized. We know that the side of folks who do want to see the Obamacare and Affordable Care Act repealed, they're getting organized. They're doing everything they can to encourage these senators to take away health care. So we really need to make sure that showing up, sharing your stories, and taking these actions continues to happen, or otherwise these members are going to have to answer tough questions like David asked. And the second question about the budget reconciliation process, you raise a really good point, and probably something that you've seen in the news, is that they're trying to push forward a bill that passed the House that might run into some procedural hurdles in the Senate. And there's some really detailed Senate rules that we won't go through on this call, but we know that there are certain things that they can't do. And most importantly, for defenders of reproductive health and rights, not only would the House health care bill take away access to Planned Parenthood and Medicaid and health insurance coverage for millions, they also tried to slip in a provision that would prevent an insurance company from covering access to abortion. That's the kind of thing that Paul is talking about. They're not able to set rules for insurance services, insurance coverage services in that way. So we know that that would be a violation of the Senate procedural rules. And that's something that if they don't hear from us about this bill rolling back access to reproductive health care, they're going to keep trying to slide these things in. And thank you, Paula, for your question. It's really sharp and smart understanding. We know that everything they're trying to do, they can't get done. And so we need to keep calling them out and showing up.
Great. Thanks, Jacqueline. Kelly, Evelina would like to know how we can find out about local town halls that are happening. And Tanya would like to know, since she lives in Washington, D.C., what she can do given our lack of representation in Congress, or their lack of.
Absolutely. So town halls are still being scheduled as we sit here tonight. So you can visit resistancenearme.org or the Town Hall Project link that I will bump back up to. And both of these websites list town halls as they're scheduled. But oftentimes the town halls that they are hosting aren't scheduled till late in the week, sometimes during the actual week of recess. So keep checking that out to see what's being scheduled in your area. But what I would say is, even if there's not a town hall scheduled, it's so important that we find a way to make our voices heard, either by going to visit our senators at their in-district offices and their staff people, or by doing public events like what we've talked about. So please keep your eyes on those two links, but also don't hesitate to make your own events to ensure that we're getting our voices out. Second question, Washington, D.C., what's up? I am based here in the nation's capital as well. There's a lot of opportunities for you to volunteer and still take action with our local organization, Planned Parenthood of Metro Washington. Great group that's doing a lot of work here in the district. For folks that may be in the DC area, there are tons of opportunities for us to turn out in person at the many rallies and mobilizations that are happening here in DC. Please email defenders@ppfa.org and we can get you connected to your local Planned Parenthood, especially folks that are here in DC, because we have so much work to do to ensure that our voices are heard.
Great. Kelly, there's a lot of connecting and folks asking to connect with other defenders in their area in the chat box. I'm wondering, could you let people know how they can find one another locally? And then Carrie would also like to know how they can pick up a pink PP shirt.
Absolutely. Well, first, if you'd like to pick up a pink PP shirt, you can find those at istandwithpp.org/act. If you scroll down just a little bit, there's a link to actually order your own Planned Parenthood swag. Swag stands for stuff we all get. But check that out. That's a great place to find t-shirts and other Planned Parenthood stuff that might support your work on the ground. For defenders that are looking to connect with each other, we've gotten that request a lot, and we're working on building out a tool online that can really help. For now, if you do have questions about, hey, who are the defenders in my particular area, you can shoot us an email at defenders@ppfa.org, and we can connect you to the local Planned Parenthood, as well as some of your local defenders as well. Still working on that tool to have you all connect in real time, but we expect it'll be up in the next month or so.
Great. Two other questions have come in. One was, what can I do as someone who is underage? I'm thinking maybe under 18 years old. And the second being, could you please repeat the question or repeat the answer about the insurance company provision denying coverage for abortion?
Sure. Well, I can say even if you are under the age of 18, it still matters that that you are a member of this constituency. Folks may have seen Deja Fox, who was an awesome town hall spokesperson who spoke at a town hall in, oh, Jacqueline, correct me if I'm wrong, Arizona?
Arizona, that's right.
Arizona. And she did a phenomenal job of telling her story about what it meant to be a young woman in Arizona, growing up, and the necessity for Planned Parenthood and healthcare access. And Jacqueline, correct me if I'm wrong, but she was 16 years old. Is that right?
That's right. And
Yep.
powerful.
And powerful. So great link. Check her out, Deja Fox. But from that, we were able to get national coverage of a young person telling their story passionately at a town hall. She went on to be on CNN and every other major news network talking about why this work mattered. And I'm saying that because our stories as young people are so, so, so critical to share. Sharing them at town halls in such a way that really does articulate our experiences is so important. So even if you're under 18 years old, please, please do that. Tell your friends about why this issue matters, because we're not just fighting this we're not trying to win just today. We want to make sure that we have a generation that has health, that is healthier than it's ever been, that has greater health access than they have ever had. So please join us in the fight, and make sure that you're showing up at your town halls as well.
And I want to make sure that we also answer Kim's question just by repeating something we heard earlier. This healthcare bill that passed the House is truly the worst piece of legislation for women in a generation. We've not seen anything nearly as bad as this before. And so earlier, when I listed out all of the problems, all of the ways this bill would take healthcare, so many things to list that we could not put it all on this webinar, but you can go to Planned Parenthood Action Fund's blog where more information is available about all of the bad things in the bill. One thing for reproductive health and rights defenders to know is that the House also included a provision that would limit an insurance company from being able to cover abortion if you are somebody who receives any sort of subsidies or tax credits or assistance to purchase your health insurance. This is the kind of thing that just cannot stand. Health insurance, of course, should give us access to all of the healthcare services that we need. There's no other healthcare service that is singled out and targeted in the way that abortion is. And so just because they jammed it through the House, it does not mean it can make it in the Senate. We know that there are procedural rules. We know that you all are all going to join us and speak out and talk to your senators about how terrible this bill is, and making sure that they know that we want to protect reproductive health care rights and access, and that includes access to abortion. So thank you, Kim, for raising that, just so we can make sure all of our defenders know what we're out here fighting.
All right. Hey, Vera, I think we have time for 2 more questions. Oh, Vera, are you still there? Ooh, Vera got so fired up, she had to go get ready to plan her event right now for May recess. Let's give her another second to hop on. And I do just want to say thank you all so much for your commitment to the Defenders Program, for your commitment to ensuring healthcare access for all Americans across this country, for all folks across this country, really, regardless of their citizenship status. It is so critically important for us and for the future of healthcare access in this country that we win this fight that's in front of us right now. And I am wholly confident that with the work that you all are doing, the passion that you're bringing to the table, and your real stories about why this matters, that we will fight and we will win. The resources that you need are really on your screen. All these tools can help you in moving forward. And we'll also make sure that a recording of this webinar is available to you. So let me ask Vera, are you back on, or did we lose you? Okay, well, that's all right. If folks have other questions, you can email us at defenders@ppfa.org, and we'll get back to you in a snap. We're really here to make sure that you have all the support that you need to be successful, because I can't say it enough. This moment, this recess moment, is our opportunity to win and build on the success that we have already had in this campaign. So thank you all so much, because I know that when women's rights are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
Fight back. All right, y'all. Thank you so much, and we will see you out there for recess. Take care, and we're here to answer your questions at defenders@ppfa.org. Have a great night.